Hello my lovely sewing friends, it's Kathryn here and I'm welcoming you to Serenity Sews. Forgive me before I start, as this is the fourth time I've done this video, and whatever happens, this is going out, so I'm really sorry. I think 2 weeks ago I started doing this and it's kind of got the better of me. I wasn't well and shouldn't have done it when I did, but anyway, here we go. This is my video into my sewing story, or sewing and me. I thought, first of all, I would say a huge thank you to all those people out there who have subscribed and have made comments on my previous videos. It's still a mystery to me that you want to listen, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. It really does mean a lot to me. So what I thought would be really helpful is to give you a bit of background to my sewing history and tell you about the early days and what I've done since and why. And really important to me is why I sew, and I'll tell you about that through my story. So going back many years, there wasn't anyone in my family that sewed. My nana told me that I took after her mother, who was a seamstress and also a midwife. And some of you already know that I am a midwife. Although I've retired from clinical practice, I did that job for many, many years. It was the love of my life and is equal to sewing, I guess, in terms of how I spend my time. So I used to sew at my nana's house. She would keep a tin for me with bits of fabric in, buttons and bits and pieces, and I would make dolls' clothes. That was my kind of foray into sewing. However, like many of you out there who are a little bit older, you will know that sewing was part of our school curriculum. And so I learnt the very fundamentals and basics of sewing, and we would do little projects at school. Then when I went to secondary school, we had sewing in a much more structured way, and I can remember that I made a tabard for my cooking class. No real skill to that apart from the binding. We all cut the same size, it didn't matter whether it was big or not, and it was fabric that was out of the school cupboard. So you went in there, you measured off what you needed, you came back and you waited to get on the sewing machine to sew yours up. So that was kind of my formal introduction to sewing. And then I got Saturday jobs, as many people do, so I was able to earn a little bit of money to buy things with, not a lot. So I, at the time, was able to pay every week for a sewing machine that I had, which was a Singer with a kind of leather overcase, kind of went over that way, and it was so heavy was that machine, but it was mine, and I don't think I bought any other sewing tools or that at all, and probably even used a pair of old scissors to do my sewing, but that was my present to me, if you like, and my start of a love and devotion to sewing or dressmaking. Now, I can also remember I started nurse training, and in the place where I was training there was a co-op department store, and I bought some gingham, brown and off-white gingham, to make a dress. No idea how to do it, no pattern, just cut it from an old t-shirt, which of course was stretchy. So stretchy, woven, completely different behaviours. But I am of the opinion that unless you do things, you never learn. And so I cut out this square necked dress that had an empire line, and I sewed brown velvet ribbon under the bust line. And I was so proud of this dress. It was shocking, really, when I think back now. The hem was hand stitched. The finishing on the inside was appalling, but I wore it and I kept it. I probably would have kept it longer, actually, but I'm guessing my mum threw it out when I left home. But that love started, and I then started to buy patterns, and that's where I learnt much more about construction, about buying the correct fabric, and really learning from trial and error. And that was the way that I taught myself to sew. So I had no formal training, but very much around using a pattern to make something that I wanted at the end of it. I was in 1976 about to get married and decided that I would make my own bridesmaids dresses. I had no idea why I thought I could do it, but there we are, I did, and I made 5 from kind of an adult down to little bridesmaids dresses, same style. At the time, it was very much like a little bit of a turtleneck, and I had pale blue polycotton with navy flowers all over it. That was the vibe then. Short puff sleeves, empire line, pretty kind of straight dresses, but they looked lovely, and I was so proud of those that it really buoyed me on. And from that moment on, actually, I started making more and more wedding gowns. I've made all of the wedding gowns for my family, so that's 2 sisters. I've made my husband's family's wedding gowns. So over the years, I gained a lot of confidence, but also a lot of experience from fitting other people, learning new techniques, and actually probably being the hardest thing out there, which is making someone's special dress for that special day. And I look back now and I think I was mad. In fact, I did the last wedding was my nephew's, and this was a couple of years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago. Absolutely gorgeous dress, and Laura looked stunning in it. But just making that one dress reminded me of how much goes into it. It's not just about the buying of the fabric and putting it together, it's the making of a dream. And I think I was just completely immune to that sense of what I was doing. But I loved it, and I'm glad I did them. So over time, I got pregnant and had my little girl, Rebecca, and of course I wanted to make her things, and I did, made lots and lots of little dresses for her, and I absolutely loved doing that. And actually buying fabric for her taught me another great lesson around how you construct children's clothes. It's not that they are any more difficult, it's just they're labour intensive. And I don't think people understand that sometimes, making little ones outfits. Yes, some of them are really, really simple, but others are complicated, and you need to make sure that it's comfortable, it's soft, and it's all the things that we like, but even more so in a little one's garment. Um, so over the years, of course, buying your own house, having a child, working part-time, money's tight. So I sewed mainly for myself to save money. And after I got a job as a community midwife, which was very much my aim right from the start of doing my training. I celebrated with buying myself a new sewing machine, which was a Hispana Viking. Fantastic, fantastic sewing machine. And I had that for many years, and I loved it dearly, just as I did my first one. And this gave me a lot more ability to do buttonholes, to do complicated designs if I wanted to. So the tasks really were endless, and I loved that sewing machine. Still have it, it's up in the loft. But over time, I've gone on to have other ones. So I'm now sewing with a Pfaff Creative Icon, which is a combined embroidery and sewing machine, which is the bee's knees. And I bought that when I retired simply because it gave me a new skill to challenge myself with, which is embroidery. And I've started to do some of that, and I am enjoying it. I'm very much a new person to it, and I love what it can do, but I haven't even tapped the surface yet of what that sewing machine can do. One of the other things that has made my sewing journey so much easier and more professional is my overlocker. So the very first one I had, my husband bought me for Christmas in 1993. Quite heavy, metal, again, not very portable, but oh my goodness, the ability to do professional looking finishing and to sew stretch fabrics just was a revelation to me. And so that opened up lots of new skills for me, and I absolutely loved it. I can remember on Boxing Day getting it down on the dining room table and sitting there all day just doing finishes, which is a bit bizarre, but that was my kind of starting to realising that you could be so much more professional. And over the years, that lasted me so well until about 4 years ago, and I realised that there was lots of problems developing with it, timing and so on and so forth. That I bought my overlocker I now have, which is the BabyLock Desire 3, which is a combined cover stitch and overlocker. And again, you know, it was like working on a completely different level. I'm able to do so many different techniques on that, and I have to say that if that was stolen or failed, I'd go out tomorrow and buy an absolutely brand new one, and wouldn't hesitate because it is fantastic. So just a little bit now about what sewing's meant for me in an emotional sense. I have made things for my family, as I've said, and I found around about 10 years ago, my sister, who was my soulmate, my younger sister, had been diagnosed very suddenly and almost too late with ovarian cancer. Um, she got a diagnosis, and on that same day, my lovely daughter Rebecca, who was diagnosed with diabetes type 1 at the age of 5 years old, so we've lived with that an awful long time. She had got married and had two beautiful little boys, and her second pregnancy had really caused her an awful lot of problems, enough so that she was on kidney dialysis and was in need of a kidney transplant. Now, on the day that the news came through about my sister, we heard that Rebecca had a donor, which was almost miraculous, simply because she was 98% incompatible with the whole of our population. However, her husband had gone on what's called a partner list, and he had a match with someone, and they matched Rebecca. So I had this terrible, terrible dilemma of my sister being terminally ill at the age of 46, but also the joyful news that Rebecca was going to get a new kidney and a new lease of life. A week later, Kerry died, and that broke my heart, as it did the rest of my siblings and family. A week after that, we buried her, and a week after that, I stayed at my daughter's so that she and her husband can go into hospital to have this much needed kidney transplant. So what a time, what an absolute time. And the boys were little, they were only 6 and 2, and I was looking after them while their mummy and daddy were in hospital the first time they'd both been away from them. So I can't even tell you what it was like during those few weeks. Anyway, the transplant went better than we could have ever hoped for, and Rebecca came home and was able to start living as a new mom, a new lease of life really, taking her boys to school for the first time in nursery. She became a school governor, she was a fundraiser, and it was sort of joy to have those three years of health. But then, as you probably can tell, something else happened. So 3 years later, in the July, Rebecca went to bed. I was having the boys for the weekend so that she and her hubby could spend a bit of time together. And in the middle of the night, 2:30 in the morning, I got a call from my husband to say that he thought Rebecca was dead. She was in bed, he couldn't rouse her, she was making no responsive noise, and in fact she died in her sleep. I can't even go into what that meant because it was horrific, as you might guess. She was our only daughter, and for me, I was in such a state of shock. But time passes, and I was trying to do the lion's share of the work in organising and supporting everyone, supporting the little ones. The week of her funeral, I decided I was going to make myself something for her funeral. I'd always made something special for an event, as I did her wedding gowns, etc. And there will be a few photos at the end so you can see all of the outfits that I put together for her wedding. But I came up into her old room, and it was where she stayed when she came over with the boys, and I sat in there, and I was at peace. And don't ask me how or what happened, but it brought me some quietness and some movement from the grief that I was in. And I've carried on doing that. I've carried on that. I've turned her room into my sewing room, and I feel very much with her when I'm in that room, and very much with my sister too. So sewing is my soulmate. Sewing has given me the very almost like best of what I can give, but it's also given me some hope. And I know this will resonate with lots of you out there, but it has taken me from grief into solace. So that's kind of my sewing story, really. So on a brighter note, I want to tell you a little bit about two garments that demonstrate how useful a cover stitch and a overlocker can be. I have two favourite patterns. and you can choose to like them or not, but I've made this one in particular, which is New Look 6412, and it's actually a dress with kind of a faux skirt under it, and it's also a tunic top. And I've made this 11 times. I'm going to hold this up for you to see. This is one that actually demonstrates really well the shaping. And I chose to put on this a turtleneck because I like to wear it in this time of year. This is a gorgeous cotton single knit. It's got these lovely little glittery patches on. I actually think Andrea's got this in her shop on Beyond the Pink Door at the moment. And I didn't get it from Andrea, but I can say this has washed and worn so beautifully. I love it. I always wash these glittery kind of textured fabrics inside out, and that's mainly so I don't iron it on the side where the glitter is. So that's just a little tip for you if you find that useful. So I highly recommend that pattern. I'm not sure if it's still available, but if it is, I'll put it on a link at the end of this video. Now the other one I want to show you is a Butterick pattern, and I really don't think this is available anymore. So this is Butterick 6272. It's classed as very easy, and it is again a jumper for two-way stretch knits, and it also has a straight pant with it as well, and I have made those and they are very comfortable. In both of these patterns I've made a size 16, which is a 38 bust, 30 waist, 40 hip. However, I'm not a 40 hip, but I know there's a fair amount of ease in this, and I'll just grade it out to be fair. But the jumper I've made in a straight size 16. Now this one I've made again 6 or 7 times. This is my latest version. As you can see, it is a very pale blush pink knit, and it's a cotton knit. It is pretty much like a jumper you might buy. And what I've done with this one is actually put a very deep neckband onto it. And I like that because it would be too low otherwise. However, I wanted it to show a little bit of my neckline, and having that deeper neckline means that it's more flattering for me. I can't even remember where I got this fabric from. I just happened to pull it out and I thought, oh, I know what I'll make with that. And it looks nothing actually on the packet, but I think this version is fantastic, and I know that I'll wear that probably springtime as well because it's cotton. So those are two lovely staple pieces that I have made really over the last I'd say 5-6 years. Many versions. I've got a very kind of almost a boiled wool one with the cowl on the Butterick pattern that I get out every winter, and it is so lovely. You can even put a turtleneck or a polo neck on underneath it, and it's actually, as I said, I don't think I'll ever throw it away because why would you? Something works. I've got the pattern exactly right for me, so I know I can get either of those out and make it, put it on. Don't even have to try it on through my kind of construction phase. Right, I don't want to make this too long a video because it gets a bit boring otherwise, but I do want to tell you about what's coming up. I am going to do probably twice a month, although we're kind of way into February now, something called my Sewing Skills Alphabet. And I'm going to do a kind of A for arms, which is the very first one I'm going to do. And I'm going to talk all about arm size or armholes, how to get that fitting right, what to do if it gates, whether to use binding on an armhole, anything to do with arms in terms of construction, putting an arm into a garment. And I will take us through the alphabet doing that. And believe it or not, there is something for every letter. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and that will be more informative, more skill-based. And then, of course, I'm going to do a favourite make, a fabric, a favourite pattern. So something just to keep your appetite whetted around my sewing and what I like to wear. I forgot to say that today I'm wearing the Stitchbird dress from, can't remember. I'll have to again put that as a link. That's terrible, isn't it? The Stitchbird dress. Anyway, this is a lovely one. I know Alex Judge made this dress, which is how I was alerted to it. And it's not very easy for you to see because it's in black, but I made this in a Cupro. It has side pockets. It's actually slightly high for me. It's a cocoon kind of shape, and it's got a flap at the back, or a pleat rather, that folds over on itself, which makes a lovely, lovely kind of fold. So I'm just deciding whether I need to make another one of these, and I think I do. I've got some stripy fabric that I think would look nice in it. So to wind up, I hope you've found my story interesting. I hope that you like the patterns and the references to what my favourite tops are for this time of year, certainly in terms of jumpers and how one fabric can change the look completely. Oh, and I forgot to say, the orange top, that kind of angled line down is so flattering if you've got a bit of a full tummy. It really does hide 1,000 sins. So I'd highly recommend that if you want to draw the eye away from your tummy. So I'm going to say thank you so much, my lovely sewing friends. I hope you'll enjoy the video. I hope you'll come back next time and have a look at arms, A's for arms in our Sewing Skills alphabet. And please, if you haven't subscribed, do give me a thumbs up if you would. No idea why, but apparently I'm supposed to do that. And I'll see you soon. So take care and bye for now.